When reviewing a G702 payment application for a state-funded project, you see that the plumbing line item has A, a total contract of $100,000 with a standard retainage, and B, percent completion of the work shown at 50%. How much is the check for the plumbing contractor going to be this month? So if you kind of think about it a little bit, you imagine that you've got a whole series of these line items. So maybe you've got the electrician, you've got some carpenters, you've got a whole bunch of different things, the elevator, everything is all listed in a great big spreadsheet, and one of them is the plumber. And the plumber is going to have a thing where it says, well, what's the contract? So what's the total contract for them? And in this case, it's $100,000. And then there's going to be a line item about how much has been paid already. There's going to be a line item about any other little facets to like, are there extras to the contract that have been added in? It's a whole series of these different elements. So they got to go on and on and on. And then the last one is going to be well, actually not quite the last one, but towards the end will be the one that says, all right, if they're at 50% done, then they are owed at this point half of that 100,000, which is going to be 50,000. But we have a retainage. So there's a retainer on this, and the retainer is that situation where imagine you've got, let's say, the plumbers, and you get to the point where they've been paid out $99,000 of their $100,000 contract. And then as you go around, you realize, oh, wait, we totally forgot to put this one thing in. It never got picked up. We need to get the plumbers back to do this work. Well, I mean, you're counting on them coming back because they want to finish the work. Like $1,000, is that really worth coming back for? Like they got other projects now, they've moved on. And so it's just not enough money to sort of get them to come back to finish something off. And so the idea of a retainer is, as this, the retainage is that as this is being paid out, you never actually pay the full amount out. You always put a certain amount into escrow, into a sort of safe spot onto the side. And typically, that would be either 5 or, say, 10%. Could be other numbers. Sometimes it's higher, up to 20. Sometimes it's more like 1%. Depends on the scale of the project and what kinds of problems you foresee. Like, does it seem like it's going to be hard? And if it's a much bigger project, if you have a line item that's $5 million, holding back 10% of $5 million that's just not reasonable. So it'd be more like 2% or 1% or something for a very big line item. But typically it'd be 5, maybe possibly 10%. And then that gets held off to the side so that by the time you get to the very end of the project, everybody has a stake in the game. They all want to get the project finished because there's a little chunk of money in escrow waiting for them once everything gets finalized and finished out. So you will definitely see this in anything. The example here is talking about a state-funded project, so a government-funded project. You absolutely will see that in those government-funded projects. But a lot of different kinds of projects will do this. Probably, I don't know, 75% of the projects I work on, we have a retainage of some kind. So the answer would be something less than 50,000. So it could be any answer that you gave might be 45,000. It might be 47,500. It could be 40,000 if it was a higher number. So anything less than 50, sort of between 40 and 50 would be a correct answer on that.
And so I think here's a good point, guys, and I want you to make sure you're following here. So Mike wrote this question to really, as a way to have this discussion about a standard retainage. But I think very likely, and Mike, you can comment on this as well. In the real exam, they would probably articulate what a standard retainage is. So the question, let's say on the real exam, might say something like a standard retainage of 10%, and then you'd have all the information to get the exact answer. But Mike didn't put that in here because he wanted to kind of use this as a teaching moment. So you just kind of got to separate the actual question from what Mike is trying to do here, and don't take it too literally. NCARB is probably going to give you all the numbers and all the things you need in order to get the exact answer.
Absolutely. And two other quick things to say about that. This would be a kind of classic example in one of the larger case study ones where there might be a contract that has the standard retainage in it.
Yeah,
and then something else that's talking about it, and then a question that regarding it, and you would have to know to go look to see what the standard retainage is. So it may not be in the question. It may be in one of the reference materials. So that's kind of the way how I was imagining it. Another quick thing to say is there won't be a huge number of ones where you have to fill in a number. Most of the time, it's going to be choose one of A, B, C, or D, or one of the choose a couple out of the choose all that apply. A few other things where you have a little drawing and you draw in the flashing or something like that. There's a few different sort of question types, but one of them is this where you have to fill in a number, and often that number is not a super specific number. It'll be a range of numbers, and the reason is that you might be doing a quick calculation and rounding off to the integer. Somebody else might be doing it rounding off in some other way, and so there'll often be a little bit of a range. So don't fret about these. Just kind of figure out what's going on and then get the number down, because it's not worth spending extra time trying to figure that part out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just maybe reiterate where you're getting that from. When we spoke with NCARB maybe a year ago, that was one of the things they talked about, is how they do build in, that they're quite reasonable with the way that they think about the answers. And so if there is, if there's a reasonable,
there's a range.
Yeah, I mean, if a slope is supposed to be 1 to 12, then the answer is going to be 1 to 12, not 1 to 12.5 to 13.5. But if there's some opportunity for there to be some sort of rounding or something like that, then they do accommodate that. So you're right. Don't make them freak out about it.